Hello, I've been working on a Siri shortcut for the last couple days to improve my Japanese learning and practice. I'm going to show it off now and share it with you all so you can benefit from my labor of pinching and zooming all over the place to get this thing to work. First, what you need to know is like if you're reading some Japanese, like here's this report on my Nichi News, you can just select any text that maybe you don't know how to pronounce, or maybe you just want the definition of, or maybe you just want to save for later. So if you take the selection, you go down to the share sheet here. So I'm going to share it. You can, all of your shareable or, anything that receives a share sheet among your shortcuts will show up here. I've pinned mine towards the top by going down to edit actions, but it's already here. It's called ingest Japanese. I'm going to tap that. And you can see that it's got the text selected up in the title, and you've got all these various actions as well as utilities. And we're just going to go through in order. So if I click render Furigana, it's going to do what it says on the tin and give you the readings above the kanji in hiragana. So you can see that first word is hihan. And then if you look at the positioning of the furigana, you can see it's also successfully tokenized that third kanji as being part of a distinct word. So that's atsumaru. And finally, the last word is haikei. So now that I understand that, maybe that's all I need. Or maybe I want to see that just give me the reading out, and you can see it's now space delimited, showing where those word boundaries are. That can always be helpful. You can copy the last result. So if I want that in my buffer to go copy later and paste somewhere else, like if I'm looking to get the reading out of it, that's now pastable. You can also translate it to English. Background of the criticism is what that translates to. You can improve translations, and in fact, all these prompts are improved by adding additional context because they're just calling ChatGPT under the hood. So to give some additional context, you just hit that utility, and you can say, this is a Mainichi news headline. I don't know what it'll do here, but if I click translate to English again, so now it's background of growing criticism, and it title cased it. So, sometimes that sort of thing matters, but Japanese is a language where cultural context matters quite a lot in different situations. So if you're saying, hey, I'm talking to my boss versus talking to my subordinate, you'll probably get a different gloss on whatever the text is saying. You can click speak aloud.
批判集まる背景
Generate audio there. You can click show definitions, and this will actually make like a little web page, artificial dictionary page for all of the words that are found. And this is just ChatGPT generating these dictionary items based on the context of the sentence, or of the selection at least. So you can see that we've got our 3 different words, a noun, verb, noun. So it shows the parts of speech, shows the readings, any alternate readings, and then it gives you an ordered list of the definitions based on most to least likely, given the context of whatever it is that you've passed in. So it'll put in bold the top one and strike out the last one. So here we got criticism, gather, background. Perfectly makes sense. Check that. Very often in my case, I want to save things that I find for later to some kind of list so that I can add them to my queue to start studying and reviewing, especially if I want to commit a particular word or grammar pattern to memory. We can do that by adding to a word list. And this is going to save to a CSV file in our iCloud drive. And you can open it at any time by asking to open it, which is in this case, because it's a CSV, it's just opening a brand new numbers document with a copy of whatever the current contents are. How you manage that is up to you. You can open it in Finder, the Files app as well. But you can see that the input is captured here, and all of those words got tokenized. And then the additional context, user provided, this is the text that I copied in for additional context. All right. So another situation where I often want to be able to like at a glance, get some text, and then just save it somewhere is when I have an image. Maybe I've just taken a photo. So I'm going to open up the Photos app. And here I'm in a ramen shop. They've got this thing on the wall, and I can read Japanese well enough to know that what it's saying is, how firm do you want your noodles? But because it's kind of a joke where it's saying like the first 1, 2, 3, 4 of 6 options are all different variations of like really firm, If you want it weak, you have to say yawa, which is the very bottom there, right? Well, if you don't know any of that, you don't understand like what this sign's saying, maybe it's how spicy it is, right? If you don't understand the kanji, you can pass this to a second workflow called ingest image. So I've got that one pinned right here. I'm going to tap that. And that's going to actually do a precursory chat GPT call, passing in the image, asking, read the text on this, and then provide any additional context based on the scene. So you can see that it's got the text right there. And if I click translate to English, it'll say, choose your noodle firmness, extra raw, like just the flour, all the way from ultra hard to soft. And you can see that most of the objects are firm. So you can probably map then if you're like trying to make an order. And if I were to add this one to my word list and open that up and exit out, now we can see this additional context is really useful. So it's actually in Japanese explained where all of the different things are. Like, so like, where are we? Probably at the top it says this, and then it kind of keeps going down. So it's giving positional cues for like where this text is found. I've run this exact same input on this photo several times, and in other cases it's given an English language description of, it looks like you're in a ramen shop trying to figure out what this menu is saying. All of that can be helpful for getting better translations, of course. The third case I want to show you is I try to read books in Japanese for practice. And the Kindle app is notorious for not wanting you to get text out of the Kindle app for later study or use, which can be really frustrating. So I'm going to open the Kindle app now and show you this workflow, which is a neat way of doing things. I just took that ingest image shortcut and mapped it to the action button on my iPhone 16. When you don't pass in something like using the share sheet, it's going to take a screenshot for me and then feed into the workflow the text that's selected. So here I'm going to grab some text, just do a normal Kindle highlight. There we go. And hold down that action button. So you can see that ran, and now my familiar action runs, and you can see it's got the text all up there. Translate to English. When I twist the faucet wide open, water bursts out with force, which sounds kind of like, it's been translated out of a page of a novel, and that's because if we were to add this to the word list as well, and come back around to open up that word list, of course it got the text. Of course, it successfully found all the non-obvious words. It knows to filter out kind of like grammar words and particles. And then you look here, and it says the text surrounding the selected text. So it successfully grabbed basically all of the text from the page, which is a handy way of providing the ChatGPT some additional context to get an idea of like what's the broader situation in addition to the text that the user's interested in like literally understanding or capturing. So that's my little project. I'm going to share these two shortcuts and over at the blog explain how to wire them up. But I just figured I'd share the love. Hopefully you find these useful and maybe you iterate on them and share something back. But I can only speak for myself. I think this is going to be a really big improvement to me being able to learn Japanese while I'm using my phone. So good luck and happy studies.